Welcome to the podcast. Now that I'm engaged, how do I get married? I'm your host, Kevin Dennis.
And I'm August Joker, co-host and brand manager at Fantasy Sound Event Services.
In addition to leading the charge at Wedding IQ, I also run Fantasy Sound Event Services, a lighting and entertainment company based in Livermore, California, that I founded over 35 years ago.
Each week on this podcast, we'll explore a new corner of wedding planning so you can prepare for your I-dos without the stress.
From budgeting to booking vendors to the day of drama.
Let's talk smart wedding planning.
All right, folks, welcome to another episode, the 26th episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married? And we have the one and only Tannya and Lindsay from Simply Lovely Events with us. So, ladies, thank you and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then this is your first podcast, right?
It is. We can't.
Yay!
Bucket list.
Yay! I'm going to say, I'm glad you were first with us. All right. So we normally ask our guests to just tell us a little bit about yourselves and how we got you here today, and then we'll jump into our episode. So who wants to go first? Should I pick?
You pick, Kevin.
All right, I'll let Tannya go first.
Thanks, Kevin. How did I get into the wedding industry? So I actually, sort of right out of college, started working for a nonprofit, doing their fundraising events, community events. Loved it. Have a big heart for just service projects. But then started really being interested in weddings because what is there not to love about it? And so a good friend of mine was a wedding planner, asked if I could intern for her during a wedding season. And this was 2013. And just fell in love with it. I mean, I was exhausted every night that I got home, but my heart was so full that I knew that that was sort of the pivot I wanted to make in just my career. So in 2014, I started my business and it's sort of just grown from there.
I love it. Lindsay, how about yourself?
Yeah. Well, I have a mild event planning background. I started in a kind of a country club setting, doing events for them. And then I actually moved over to Angels baseball and worked there for a few years. Took a little time off. Yes. Are you a Dodgers fan?
No, I'm a Texas Rangers fan. So
No.
So we do not like each other.
No, we do not. I'm sorry. But worked there for a few years after they won the World Series. And so
and they haven't been to the playoffs since, if you're keeping track. So
let's not talk about that. My husband is actually a Dodgers fan, so that's always
he's very happy lately.
Mm-hmm, he sure is. But then I kind of had kids, took a time off, did a little bit of insurance work, and then I met Tannya, who said, "Hey, do you want to come assist me at weddings?" And I was like, well, that sounds fun. And so I did. I started assisting her at the weddings, and then just like she did also just kind of fell in love with weddings. And it's an exciting industry that you can't really ever predict what's going to happen. You try, but you can't. And I just really loved it. I love the people. I love being part of somebody's like special day. So.
Yeah, I love it too.
Yeah.
All right. It's funny you say. I say you never know what to expect is because we're the greatest at improv. We in the wedding industry. We just sometimes we have to just make
You'll
it.
Never be bored.
Nope. You just have to make it up and go. So all right. So today we're talking day of coordination versus full service planning. What's the difference and why it matters? So as we jump in. You mentioned to us before that Simply Lovely does not do day of coordination or even month of coordination. And why is that? And what do couples misunderstand about this service?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first off, I don't want to discredit any coordinator that's out there doing month of day of coordination.
Everyone's got to do what's right for them. So that's the best part of it. Yeah.
So definitely, I will say when I started my business, 100% offered month of coordination. I just think from 2014 to now and with experience and doing many weddings, we just don't offer it because we really feel like we're not giving our best service to our clients. And I think it's sort of a disservice to also the couple. They've done a lot of planning, and I think it's really hard for them to download all the details, vision, planning that they've done for their special day in 3 to 4 weeks before their wedding date. I think we all know from being in the wedding industry that the 3 to 4 weeks leading up to a wedding day is chaotic and emotional, and there's so much going on. So I'm not trying to give this coordinator all the information regarding what you want to see happen. And it's hard. It's hard on everyone, I think. So I think we don't offer it because we really want to make sure that we're executing someone's wedding day as perfectly as possible. We want to understand their vision for their day, to a T, where we all know things come up, but we want to be able to, jump in and say, oh, I know what she would want. And if we need to remove something, we know what to do with the timeline, which I think is really hard when you've only had minimal conversation and interaction with the couple leading up to it. I also think that time builds trust. And I think as vendors, we're really needing to build trust with our clients, right? So they see our portfolios, they see our past work. And so that's kind of the initial okay, I think you can do the job. But as we meet with them, we're building that trust and relationship. And especially for a wedding coordinator or planner, we're sort of building this, I think, relationship with them so that they know that on the day of, they're not having to think of anything. So I think when you hire a day of coordinator, there's something sort of in the back of your head as a bride thinking I hope she remembers that one thing that I told her. So that's why we don't offer it. And I know that service exists, but we really want to be intentional with our clients and make sure that we know everything that's important to them so it happens.
I totally get that. And I love the part where you said we can't be our best selves or provide our best service, because I mean, I used to do some day of coordination, and as you guys might know, I feel like the short-term wedding bookings have been trending, and those were the most chaotic days. And again, to each their own, you do you, boo, but it's so stressful, trying to gather all that information and, of course, like you said, execute the vision the way that they intended it to be.
Yeah, 100%. Lindsay, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I mean, you said it. You said it perfectly. I think I actually have only done wedding planning with you, so I don't really have experience in short-term coordinating, except for I think one time we got a couple that was a month out. And one of the things I found, it was really hard because by the time I got on with them and was able to review their details, there's certain things that you're oh, your guest count increased by 50 and you didn't tell your florist, and they potentially may have ordered all the arrangement or the florals already. So it's that it's hard to kind of catch those things. And then the communication, the time lapse between communicating with your vendors, and then do you really want to do that the month of your wedding? That's pretty stressful. So yeah.
So what would you guys say is the ideal amount of time for a couple to reach out to you, or the shortest amount of time that you would take on a new client?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our coordination services start 3 months out. And so we feel like that's sort of the perfect timing. 8 weeks is doable too. As Lindsay said, sometimes we get clients that call and they're they are maybe 10 weeks out from their wedding date. And so we're okay, ideally we would love 12 to 15, but we can do 10, right? So obviously we're flexible with that. But in terms of the services we offer, we feel 12 weeks, 3 months is ideal. Just gives you enough space to, like I was saying, the month of a wedding just is really chaotic, I think, for the couple, regardless of how much planning you've done. I also think that you kind of want to check out. As I remember with my wedding, 2 weeks out, I'm whatever happens, right? So you already sort of lost 2 weeks in that last month, if that makes any sense. So that's how we sort of ended up with that timeline of 3 months.
Yeah. I like that you said that they check out, because I remember my wedding as well. I was just, and I remember in couples that we deal with, they're always at the end, I don't care, whatever you think. And it's like, well, this is your wedding, not my wedding. Like, it's not what I want to do. This is your big day. So let's not do whatever I think, kind of thing. But they're on decision fatigue at that point. They really are at the last 2 weeks. And they, depending on what the situations are with their families and all that. So it gets, I don't know. I feel like it just gets kind of crazy at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Are there any certain instances when couples only need a day of planner and not a full service planner? Like, is there a specific wedding style, timeline, or budget that will make one fit better than the other, you think?
Good question. Obviously, I want to say no, because
yeah.
But, there's so many different types of weddings. There's something that comes to mind is we've had clients that are only hiring us for ceremony only services.
Oh,
so
okay.
They are getting married at a venue and, are not going to do a reception, whether it's, for cultural reasons or they just want to have a ceremony and go to a restaurant and have a lunch. So we definitely have done what I guess someone would say month of, like someone's reached out 6 weeks out and said, could you just help us run through a rehearsal? How do they walk down? Can you be there to make, do the processional, recessional and make sure that we've thought about everything? And so yes, we have done, I guess, day of, month of for something like that. Just because it's not as, I guess, detail intensive as like a full wedding day with vendors where we're primarily dealing with like an officiant and a florist in the venue, which is a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting you say that too, because it's like there's not all weddings are not one size fits all, because like we had a whole episode on courthouse weddings, and I would, as someone that doesn't deal
I like
with
that
court,
episode,
yeah, you know what I'm saying, but it just, and then for the fact that you're saying that, they just want ceremony only, I would never think of that, because we're where we are with what we do, we're not in that space, so that's one of the greatest educations I'm getting out of the podcast is learning there's weddings are not one size fits all. There's so many different things that we can do. So anyway, that was awesome.
No, yeah, I didn't think about it just ceremony only, but yeah, I guess it does just depend on like the number of vendors. Like, is it like a wedding at someone's backyard or is it like at a venue? I think all those things get taken into account and just, the number of details that go into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So no, that is a good question, but to like your point, what you just said, no wedding is the same. So we're definitely flexible. We're not like, these are the only services that we feel work for any wedding, but, dependent on what the couple's looking for and what they need. Sure. Like that could.
Yeah. And the other thing too is like we're in the Bay Area, and being in the Bay Area, we're such a melting pot, so it just, you never know what culture, what religion, what we're, what flavor we're going to get a wedding that day. It's just, again, we're not one size fits all weddings around here.
And again, that's what keeps things interesting around here.
It really does.
Okay, so I think I kind of want to get more into what you guys do specifically, because I feel like we've, kind of talked about day of coordination. So I kind of want to talk about what you guys do during your full service planning and just how couples, maybe what are some common mistakes that they make with you guys that they can try to avoid when they are reaching out to a planner and while they're working with them throughout the planning process.
I mean, I could probably say one of the mistakes or oversights is not communicating changes or details to us. They can be, super small, but on the day of, then I'm going to the DJ, for instance, and saying, hi, this is the order of our toasts. And then he's got a different order that they communicated like a week before their wedding, which is totally understandable. There's a lot of details to keep track of, and that's why we're there. But those are
from like 2 toasts to like 5, and you're like, oh, well, that's fun because that's what backs up your timeline. But okay,
yeah. No, that's totally that's exactly what they'll be like. Oh yeah, we added this, and this, and you're like, okay, cool. Well, we'll just like rearrange everything and tell everybody that there's there's the flexibility. This job has made me nothing but flexible.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. I would also say, like with our planning clients, just what I do love, I guess I should say, is that we get to start from the beginning with setting a budget. I think budgets obviously always set clear expectations. And so that's sort of like our first meeting always. Like, let's talk about your budget, because we can certainly tell you realistically what each vendor, kind of a range of what's out there, and where do you feel comfortable. That way we get you the best vendor team, right? And so while that's more like our full service clients, even with our partial planning clients, we still do that because it really sets the tone. So I think biggest mistake overall is not starting with a budget, whether you're going to take a lot of the planning on or not. Also, I would say, and this is sort of a personality thing with clients, but if you're not good at making decisions, it's really hard when our couples don't make decisions. We can only do so much, right? Like we could say, hey, you're looking for this type of florist and this is your budget. And we get them 3 proposals to review and we talk through the pros of everything and why we love them and why they're excellent. And then nothing. And then you just get no decision for like come and you're like, you're getting married in 4 months. Like we really need you to make a decision. So, so I think that's, really, I think I think that sometimes couples, which aren't so much necessarily ours all the time, but couples can sort of say like, oh, we have all the time in the world. And we are setting out this like timeline for decisions to be made for them. Because we know that should they wait till like 3-4 months out, it just starts to feel really overwhelming. So I think if you have a planner, whether, it's us or any planner, really taking their lead on the timeline of what they're, guiding you towards in the process, because really the end goal is to relieve any stress and make sure that you're sort of on time and on par with like where you should be with the wedding planning timeline.
I love that too, because if they wait to the end, they're not going to get what they want, and their vision is not. Yeah, so it's keeping them on decision timeline as well. Is I never even thought about that. That's amazing. That's
we talked about that with Laura the other day, and that was like mind blowing to me. Right, was like a decision timeline because, I mean, I just feel so bad for couples, like Kevin was saying earlier, like decision fatigue. And especially if you're doing with it in a short amount of time, like that's a lot. And it's not something you can put off until later. It's something that you have to decide now because other decisions depend upon making decisions first. And I really like what you said about the budget too, because that's something that we've been preaching on the podcast all the time is you have to set a budget first. It's you say yes, you set a budget because you really can't do anything efficiently without doing that first. And I know it's such a hard piece of homework and can be uncomfortable, especially if you are, bringing in family to assist you, but it's just a Band-Aid that you have to rip off.
Yeah, I agree.
I love it. And so you also mentioned, communication is key, right? But so how can a coordinator, like a wedding coordinator navigate the family drama or the family? There's a mom that thinks she's in charge, but she's really not, or an aunt that tries to hijack the wedding. So how does a planner come in and rescue this situation?
And I bet you guys got some good stories too. So
you got some good stories. You forward all the mom drama.
I can see it in her face right now.
Well, and do you guys get this question too? Like sometimes when I tell people that I work in the industry, they'll be like, "Oh, I bet there's so many bridezillas out there," and I'm like, honestly, it's just the moms. Like the brides are honestly chill most of the time. Like they just want their dream wedding, and like they can be a little intense, but it's just because they just have this vision that they want executed. But the moms are the ones I've had issues with. So.
Yeah. Families can be the biggest drama bringers of the day.
Drama bringers?
Drama bringers. It's just like they come and they bring it. And I think one way that I find out a lot about like family and what the dynamics are there is just, again, like by the time that we spend on the calls with them. So sometimes like they'll indicate certain things, but the biggest way that I find out about it is when we're talking about their processional and who's walking in it and, all of those details. I can tell from, we do all our meetings on Zoom. So I can see in their faces when, potentially that there's going to be some thing going on with maybe one of the family members, or they don't want them seated next to each other. So I try to take notes of that and remember, like when we're on the day of, it just is helpful for me to know, like, okay, I had two mothers that didn't like each other. And that was a very tricky situation. I got one mother-in-law told me to go give the middle finger to the other mother-in-law. So.
Oh, no.
That happened to me once too. Like they were feuding the whole night, and they were using me as like their confidant. And one mother-in-law was like, "Yeah, we paid this amount of money, and they only paid this amount." And I'm just like, I didn't need to know that, but thank you. And the whole night they're like, "Did you see how she didn't help clean up anything?" And I'm just like, "Whoa, guys, it's not a contest."
Yeah. I just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that."
I was going to ask Lindsay, did you go give her the middle finger?
No, I just, I listened patiently for a while because I think sometimes family members there's a lot of emotions going on and they just need to talk it out. So like listening. And then when she did that, I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I just don't feel comfortable doing that." And then I just removed myself kindly from the situation. I was
like, I can't see Lindsay walking over and flipping some CD off. This is from the other mother-in-law.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing to ask somebody.
Yeah, she was, I had to manage her pretty much the whole day. But thankfully, I think the couple didn't really notice and they were happy and they enjoyed their day. So that made me happy.
That in the end, that's the most important. And that's why I think you answered the question why we hire a planner right there. Because the couple had no idea what was going on, and you diffused the situation. And unfortunately, those two ladies were trying to make the wedding about the two of them and not about the couple. So yeah, I had a father of the bride one time it was him and the mother of the bride were like just freshly getting divorced. It was like a fresh thing. And he was being such an asshole to everything. And finally, I don't know why it just came over me. And I looked at him and I'm like, you need to suck it up and need to stop being a jerk. And I just looked at him because I was like, you're ruining your daughter's wedding day. And I'm like, I totally overstepped my boundaries. But like this guy, and he looked at me and he's like, thank you. You're right. And I go, you can be pissed off at her like in a couple hours from now, your ex-wife, and I go, you guys can battle it out. I go, but right now at one point, you guys both, you made this girl and today it's about her. It's not about the two of you. And you need to celebrate her love before you ruin her love, and I just kind of gave it to him and I really overstepped my boundaries and I know I did, but he did thank me. I was waiting I was waiting for him to punch me or something, but he was very like, he came up and thanked me. And I just, and the mom was being a bitch. I do agree with him on that, but it was, it was what it was. But I'm like, we just got to be the better person.
Buttercup.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, all right, good job.
I know it's hard. It's hard handling family dynamics, and especially in the planner position, right? Because they tend to want to take over, and you've been communicated the couple's vision, and that's really all you're trying to do is execute that. And it's hard to manage conflicting opinions when you go into the wedding day.
And I would say, to go back to what you asked about, is there anything that couples maybe don't do or could take advantage of having a planner about family dynamics, which I've started to now ask my planning clients, because usually it comes out naturally. Like people will tell us their family drama, like, just want you to be aware, I have two stepmoms or what, all the things. Like they give us all the dynamics so that we know. But now we've started to ask, like, are there any family issues, dynamics you want us to know about that potentially could come up on the wedding day? Because sometimes they're living in like the norm. Like that's just the norm, right? Like we all know with family gatherings, like Uncle, whatever, Bob is going to be like crazy and drinking and going to do whatever, right? But that's what we're used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just him. But I think if we ask now, before it used to be like they would just tell us naturally. But I think us asking and just having couples know, like, hey, we're here for you. Like, we're really like their advocate. We're not here for anybody else. Like, this is our day. So just tell us what we're looking out for, and we will do our best to like divert, like push people in a different direction. Like we're pretty, skilled at moving and talking to people as long as we know like what we're working with. So I would say if you're listening to this and you have a planner, like tell them all the things, like tell them what they should be prepared for or what potentially could happen, because sometimes it won't happen. But, hey, this might happen with Aunt Susie, just FYI, is so helpful for a planner to know.
Yeah. And it's also helpful to have Lindsay there to go give the other mother-in-law a middle finger.
Yeah.
Lindsay to the rescue. Lindsay, I'm never going to let you live that down now. Every time we're working a wedding, I'm going to be like...
You're like, can you go over there and give that person a middle finger for me?
Yeah. I am
Sorry,
so going to
Kevin,
bring
I'm not doing that for you.
I know. But I'm going to ask a few times this wedding season. You watch out.
Okay, I got you.
Maybe she'll surprise you and say yes.
or she'll just give it to me. That'll be even better. So
Never.
All right. I have another question. So we have our planner. Communication seems key, but is there other things that we can do as a couple to get the most out of our planner, or you get the most use out of our planner other than communication?
Yeah. I mean, we have been in the industry for so long, like we're a resource. So sometimes I feel like couples like ask us about vendors or ask us about, timeline for wedding invitations, ask us about boarding, like ask us about all the details. Like there's nothing is off limits. And I feel like if we don't know, we're going to find out for you. But I just feel like at this point in the game, there aren't too many questions that like throw us off. So it's like, don't be shy. Sometimes I feel like some couples are like, oh, I don't want to bother her with that, or I'll just do this out on my own, which maybe we just have really awesome, nice clients. Because I do feel like sometimes I'm like, why didn't you ask me about that? Like, a while ago, like let me help you. So I would just say, hey, nothing's off limits. Like we're a resource, like use your planner as much as you can, given within obviously the services that you hired them for. But definitely know like they're your advocate and have so many years in the business. Ask away. Would you say that too?
Yeah, and they have the most experience through this whole process. So, all right. So you mentioned though, real quick. Sorry, August, I'm jumping in real quick. You said you don't get thrown off too often. So what are some like strange requests that you guys have gotten over the years? Other than the middle finger, Lindsay, that had to go give to the mom.
Please.
I mean,
feel like ones I used to get, and again, like it's totally fine to ask, but sometimes, and I don't mean to be rude or mean in any way, but sometimes I'm like, I feel like you could have just asked Google that, like it's like a simple question. Like no, it's like they'll send like 100 emails, which again, totally fine, happy to help, but then they'll be like, when should I send my invites out? And I'm like, I feel like that's easy to look up, but okay. But go ahead, you guys.
What do you think, Linz? Why am I not? I'm weird, strange things that we've been asked.
I don't know that there has been anything particularly strange. I always think if they're asking me questions and they trust me and they trust like my opinion, and that's where I want to get to with all my clients, is that I want them to be like, in order for them to relax on the wedding day, they have to trust me that I'm gonna, be their advocate, in all respects. Strange things that happen on the wedding day that are weird. I mean, there's been lots of things where I've been like, okay, all right, I can go do that. I mean,
tell them about
which
the dressing.
Which one?
The dressing and the undress, all the things.
Yeah, I had a bride who she didn't have a wedding party kind of arrive. I mean, her processional ended up being like 30 people in the processional.
Holy cow.
But there was nobody with her when she arrived at the venue. And so she actually showed up in the tent in a robe, and she wasn't dressed when all the vendors were there. And I was like, let's head back up to the bridal cottage and get you in your gown. Is there anybody to help you? And she said, no, that she needed my help. And I was like, okay, great. I will help you. So we fully, I had to get her into her gown, zip up the whole thing. Then she's like, can't get her shoes on because she couldn't bend over in the dress. Obviously, some of them are a little more fitted. Yeah. And so I was down on the ground and she lifted up her knee and kneed me in the chin.
Oh my God.
Put on her shoes.
Oh man.
And then the kicker was she turned around at one. I thought, okay, I'm done. I've dressed my bride. She's set. And then she turns around and holds out her watch to me. Now I need you to put on my watch. I felt like I was dressing the queen.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
she couldn't do her own watch?
No, apparently not. I don't know. I think I was already dressing her at that point.
Yeah,
a little bit.
When Lindsay was telling me the story, I'm like, that feels a little, I don't know, entitled.
I felt like, it was a little awkward.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know that I would have done that, Lindsay. Hi. I'd have been like, oh, beautiful watch. I'll be back for you.
Yeah.
I'm learning the boundaries that I have now, where I'm like, oh.
No, but that is awkward, and she didn't have anyone there.
Yeah, and I, again, just wanted to make sure that, we were staying on time and that she was getting in her gown. And I was like, is there anybody coming to help you? And she was like, well, I don't know when my mom's going to come. And so then I was like, okay, I better just, sometimes I find in the industry, you just do things sometimes because they just need to get done. There's just no, I'm not going to leave a bride in the bridal cottage to get dressed by herself. When we need to take pictures and we need to stay on time, that's just not, I just won't do that. If there's something that needs to be done,
you just do it.
You get it done.
I feel like the good vendors are always on team couple. We're all there for the couple. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What were we?
One of the first weddings Lindsay and I did, it started to rain. And so everything had to be moved inside of this tent reception. And so it was, usually never happens. So everything had to be transformed. We had to do ceremony seating on the dance floor. One of our favorite, floral vendors, which you guys, I think, have interviewed before, the Flower House, they did this beautiful, arrangement ceremony, art. Well, the couple was like, when the ceremony's over, we need you guys to move that arch behind our sweetheart table. And at this point, floral team had left. They put everything up. And I looked at Lindsay and I'm like, all right, we're going to move it. And so I watched Ginger's team, how they had put the weights on the back. And we're like, okay, we know what we need to do. Well, we didn't account, or I should say I didn't account for the fact that, by the time the florals go on, it is top heavy, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you remove weight and we're holding it a little bit from the front. I mean, that thing just started to fly all the way, literally this far from the dance floor.
Oh my gosh.
We almost knocked a groomsman out. I mean, it was wild.
It was thankfully, I think some of the catering team kind of ran over and they saw it going down, because we were I think I had my leg. I was trying to use my leg as leverage to hold the bar down, but I was like,
I wish I would videotape that, but we get it. There is no weird thing, maybe because we've been asked to do a lot of different things. It's more the process of doing them. We're oh shit, how are we going to do that? So anyway, it worked. And then when I did tell the the floral team what happened, she was like, I can't believe you moved that. Like, that should have not been moved.
Jeez.
That's a good story.
I'm sure we've had some really crazy things. Okay, if I think of something by the time we end, we'll share.
Okay.
Yes.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
And I'm trying to think of weird things too. I don't know, like they're not necessarily weird, but just like interesting that it happened. Like I had one couple where like they had this photographer and I like to go out to sunset photos with the photographer just because it's fun and it's cute and you know, you can help hold stuff if they need help with that. And basically we get out to the vineyard and they just took one picture, like I swear 3 pictures, and they're like, okay, do you want anything else? And I'm like, we've been out here for 2 minutes, and the bride just kind of looked at me like all scared, and I'm like, oh, did you have any certain poses that you wanted to do? Or, you know, like, did we wanted to get your veil in there? And I swear the photographer just didn't say anything, and I was the one posing them. And I'm like, okay, whisper sweet nothings into her ear. Okay, put your hand on her chest, like, drop your bouquet. I'm like, this is not my job. But, like, it was just such a weird... It was weird because the photographer didn't intervene. And I'm just like, okay, you're letting me pose them. You're letting me pick the locations around the property. Like, it was interesting. It was very weird. So, but the bride was like, thank you for stepping in because they would have got like 3 freaking sunset pictures. I'm like, that's crazy. So, yeah.
Or even Kevin, I mean, you are DJ services with Fantasy Sound. We have been asked to MC weddings. Like, and it's like, oh, can you hype everybody up? Like, our DJ just seems sort of like, and like they can play music, but could you be the one to get everyone excited? And that's like a hard no.
Yeah.
Like, first off, I can't drink at your wedding, and no, I cannot hype everybody up.
That's not your job.
So, you know, there's things like that where they'll ask us to be sort of like another vendor. We're like, well, that's not our role. And so anyway,
it
can be fun.
kind of August had to be the photographer, so to speak, without pushing the buttons,
exactly.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah. No,
So
I've had other, like, even the venue coordinators that we work with at some of the venues come up to me and they're like, yeah, last night, like, the DJ refused to speak. We had to get an uncle to come do it because I'm not going to do it. And they're like, I'm so thankful you're here tonight. You know, like, they were just like thankful to have someone that could actually talk on the microphone. And so it's just kind of funny because we just did an episode just that we'll have aired by the time we've done this, but about the differences between a DJ and an MC. And you know, some people are really good. You know, there's like I had a cousin that was a club DJ. He had zero desire to do anything when it came to talking on a microphone, and he just loved being in the club. And so club people would want him to do the wedding. He goes, nope, I have a cousin. You hire him. You don't need me at your wedding, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
No, I can't wait to listen to that one. That's
Ooh,
good.
So I got 2 things now. Lindsay, go flip someone off. Tannya, I need you to hype them up.
Oh my gosh.
No, thank you.
She's so polite. No, thank you.
No. I'm like, no, not going to happen.
That's the one thing I would probably most certainly say no to, hyping up a crowd.
Yeah.
Just a little.
This is we're gonna have fun this wedding season, giving each other little jokes as we go through this next wedding season. I can't wait.
Well, I just wanted to see if you guys had any like last benefits that you could give our couples listening when hiring a full service planner before we get into our top tips. So is there any last, advice you can give couples or reasons why it's so beneficial to bring in a full service planner?
I mean, I think we've sort of talked about the differences between like coordination and planning, right? Like a coordinator is really executing the plans for a couple, where I think with a planner, the time of involvement is so much longer. So I think there's so much to benefit from having someone sort of see you through the whole process. I really believe that planners will eliminate stress throughout the wedding as much as possible, right? There's just some things we can't eliminate, but I think we're going to eliminate as much as possible because we're able to just, like we've talked about, that sort of like decision timeline of things. And then design. I feel like, there's so much out there right now for couples to, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, whatever, that has now we're seeing it so much harder for our clients to decide what direction to go in. And so you think a planner can really help refine that for you and not make it seem like you have all these different styles coming together and then it sort of just feels a little hodgepodge. And so you really get to know like your vision, your colors, and also like helps the wedding be representative of the couple, because at the end of the day, it's their wedding day. So our job as a planner is to make sure, like, this is who you are. This is a representative of your love story, and help, sort of design the whole aspect, like aesthetically, to like the timeline.
I think your planner is your insurance policy on the day of your wedding. Like your planner, you've done all this planning and, your vendors are all there, and your wedding planner is there to make sure that it gets executed properly or within your vision.
Yeah.
So it's important. I didn't have one and I really regret it. They weren't a thing when I got married.
Yeah. So both of us have always said like, oh, we really wish we would have had a wedding planner. Like we had a coordinator month of me. I don't know if Lindsay had one.
No.
And I mean, and also a coordinator is not like a family friend. That's probably a whole other podcast topic, but it's like, we have a lot of couples that say like, oh, our aunt's gonna be our coordinator, so we really don't need anyone, and so we're like, no. Oh no, you do. But all that to say, like both Lindsay and I didn't have a hired like professional, and I would give anything to go back and like pay for at a minimum 3 months out, because it was, so stressful. So stressful. But
funny you say that. When I got married, I had a venue coordinator. I didn't have a coordinator, but being in the wedding industry, I thought I was good, but it would have been nice to have someone, because on the day of, I had fun at my wedding, but I didn't have fun at my wedding, if that makes sense. I didn't really get to, have that fun at the wedding. I still, people still to this day talk about our wedding, but I plan on doing it the right way when the kids get married and having someone there to.
Well, and I think that's just a universal feeling. Like, and I know I've said this a few times on the last few podcasts, but my little sister recently got married, and it was a very, small thing, like just a few hours. But by the end, like throughout the whole process, I'm telling my mom, like, hey, I can help. Let me know what you need help with. And they were like, no, we got it. We're good. And we get to the wedding day and we're getting towards the end, and me and my mom, we're cutting cake. And and then my mom says to me, she goes, I understand why people hire coordinators now. And I'm like, yep, there's a reason. Because she said, like, my little sister got to enjoy, but my mom was taking on a bulk of that work and the bulk of the stress. And she just wanted to be the mother of the bride. And she didn't really get, so not only is it, like you said, Lindsay, an insurance policy for the couple, but you're also just relieving the stress from your family members too, so they don't have to step in and be that person for everybody else.
100%. And it's so hard because couples, typically everyone that we're dealing with, it's like first engagement, first wedding. They have there's no reference point, right? Of like, oh, well, when I did it this way, I would have done it different. It's like they have their one wedding that they're planning. And so they're thinking, where can I, and any budget, but any client that has any small or large budget, they're like, where can we cut costs? And so they sort of think like, oh, we'll get by with just someone to show up maybe like the day of, because really, like, how hard is it, right? And then they get, leading up to their day, and they're like, dang, I wish I would have hired someone sooner, because there is no point of reference. Like with anything else that you purchase, you're like, oh, next time I'll buy a better bed or whatever.
And you have to remember too, like you can't be as the bride in all the different spots that we are in. I mean, we're constantly communicating to vendors. We're keeping your timeline on track, making sure that you enjoy your day. I don't remember any of my wedding day. I was 2 hours late to my reception, and I had like 30 minutes to do all the formalities at the very end because I didn't have anybody like advocating and like keeping us on time so that I could truly enjoy the day. I think I spent like an hour and a half visiting people at their tables, and it was just like, I had no frame of reference for like what a wedding should be or anything. So it really would have been beneficial for enjoying the day to be able to just relax and know that somebody is going to take care of that for you.
Yeah.
There you go.
The
You got
biggest tip, hire someone, whether it's like 3 months out, a coordinator or a planner, hire someone so you're not stressed out. They can take care of the details for you and you can enjoy your day. That's what we're there for.
Well, and I was going to say, all right, so my tip was the decision.
Oh, I beat you too.
You did beat me. I was like, Tannya, I'm the one that gets to go first. So anyway. But you didn't take my tip, so it's good. But it's like follow your planner's decision, decision planner. Like you got to follow along with that and not waiting to the end to get all these, especially I would say it's like it's your DJ and it's your photographer because there's only one of them. It's not like, if you really want that one photographer or that one DJ, you really can. Florists, there's teams of florists and so, the baker, but you still want to hire these people at the appropriate time, but you really want to nail these people down when your planner suggests. So that was my tip. And my other tip would be to hire Simply
You get
Lovely.
a 2?
I did.
I take it back. Taking all the good ones. What are me and Lindsay supposed to say? Come on.
I know.
I'm so sorry. I did not know where that was going. Hire Simply Lovely.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yes. Oh, I love that. We'll take it.
I'll let you go next, Lindsay. I'll let you go next.
Okay, my tip for enjoying your wedding day would be to sometimes, I hate to say this as a planner, there's always something that happens during the wedding day that doesn't go exactly to your plan. So just enjoy the day, really focus on your partner and enjoying every moment with them, regardless of what's happening on around you. If you have those crazy family members or, maybe something has gone wrong, it's being present in that moment. Remember why you're there. You're getting married to the person that you love. So I would say just really focus on that.
And ignore those 2 mother-in-laws.
Yeah, the 2 mother-in-laws. Don't worry. They'll be there the rest of your life.
He keeps circling back to that, bro.
I just can't, in my head, I can't get out the vision of Lindsay walking up to a mother-in-law, flipping her off. Sorry. Lindsay's like the sweetest person I know in the wedding industry.
I couldn't imagine either, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I'm like, you are literally one of the sweetest people that I know in the wedding industry. So it's just like, I just can't get that visual out of my head. Sorry.
Not doing it.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't do it either. All right, August, you got to give us your tip.
Okay, I think what I took away from today mostly was just the power of communication. And I think what resonated me, Tannya brought up earlier, was just sometimes, like, yes, they're communicating, but not in an efficient way. Like, you could be giving one timeline to one vendor and a completely different one to another. And I don't know if couples understand sometimes when vendors are all on the same page, it really affects the day as a whole. So just making sure that everyone has been given the same information so that way they can execute your day as cleanly as possible. And communication is a big factor when it goes into that, and the timeline and the day of. Just communicate as efficiently as you can.
It's in everything in life that as couples, you're going to have to communicate to keep your marriage, alive and all that. So it's communicate with your planner as well. Good tip. Yeah. All right, folks. We always ask our folks at the end, what is your favorite part of the wedding? So we always want to know. And I know Lindsay's is to go flip off those mother-in-laws, but that.
Oh,
I'll stop. That's the last time I'm going to mention it.
Okay, so it's not actually part of the wedding, but as a wedding planner, my favorite part is at the very end of the night when I get to say now I know this is going to sound bad when I get to say goodbye to my couples, but it's that I get to see that they had a good time. Like there's usually a lot of stress in the beginning, and when we get to the end of the night and they're like, we had the best day ever. Thank you so much. We, we're able to enjoy everything. Like that makes me feel, I love that feeling that they really I get to see them enjoy every single moment of their day. So that's what I like.
I like it.
I
That's
thought
a good
you
one.
were going to say, because it's over.
Bye.
I'm going to go take a nap. A really long nap.
That's a good one, Lindsay.
You know what never gets old is, and we're usually on the side for wedding ceremonies, but it never gets old watching the groom watch his bride walk down the aisle. And I don't know, it's either that moment always makes me teary-eyed, but I'm kind of a crier, or a mother-son dance, and that's probably because I have a son. So I'm so emotional. But I feel like those two things, it's the groom watching his bride, it's the start of a whole new life. But then also I don't know, the mother-son dances are just so precious, but sort of the break of, not the break, but you know what I'm saying. Moving into a different season of life, letting go.
Yeah, I like it. I get you on that, Tannya, because I get the parent speeches is what gets me ever since I had kids. And it's and it's just I'm like, oh my God, that was a great speech. I'm like, I need to steal some of that for my kids, But
You're
anyway,
not the longest speech in history.
No,
You're going to
I'm
steal
not.
speeches from everybody.
No, I'm going to be good. we're going to need a coordinator because I'm going to need someone to keep me under control because I'm going to probably be a handful. I hate being a guest at a wedding. And so I only can imagine when my kids get married, I'm going to be,
you need your own coordinator just for Kevin.
Probably to keep me calm because it's why is this not happening? What's going on over, I can't go and be a guest at a wedding because I'm constantly scanning the venue or the room or whatever. And just why is this happening? My wife hated when all her college friends were getting married. She hated taking me to the wedding because I'm like, look at those two. They're over in the corner. We should be doing this now. And she's like, will you just shut up and have a drink? So anyway, it was
it's the curse of being part of the wedding industry too.
Yeah.
I'm not a good wedding guest either. I'm awful as a planner. I'm like, why aren't they doing that? Did they forget to do that?
Yeah. I'm sure your husband.
And you're
Shut
intervening.
Up.
I've been to some industry friends' weddings and we're like, okay, they're not passing out the glow sticks. Let's go pass out the glow sticks. Oh, they didn't turn on the neon sign. Let's go turn on the neon sign. You're just relax. Exactly. Have a drink. Sit down.
It's the worst. So anyway. All right. So how do our listeners get in touch with Simply Lovely and hire the two of you to plan their wedding day?
They could go on our website at www.simplylovelyevents.com and fill out an inquiry form, or they could email. They could email me at Tannya, TANNYA, at simplylovelyevents.com.
All right. And we'll have all that in our show notes so you can go out and hire Simply Lovely. So, ladies, thank you for being here today. I know you were a little timid to come on, but you guys were phenomenal. As you could tell, we went a little longer than normal because, well, I think it's all because of Lindsay and her middle finger thing, and me wouldn't stop talking about it. But anyway,
that's all you, bro.
Remember,
that's all. That's all anyone's going to remember for this episode, other than to hire Simply Lovely. Anyway, all right. But ladies, we can't thank you enough for being here today. And listeners, don't forget to go out there and like and subscribe and do all the reviews on Apple. We found out Apple. We want you on Apple reviewing us and going out there. And please, if you do a review, don't mention Lindsay and the middle finger. We'll be good there. So anyway, all right, ladies, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank
you.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Now That I'm Engaged, How Do I Get Married podcast.
Brought to you by Fantasy Sound Event Services.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Please get in touch with me or August if you have any topic you would like us to cover.
Or if you're struggling with your wedding planning, please be sure to submit a question to podcast@fantasysound.com.
I encourage you to check out our other episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're a fan, we'd love if you would subscribe to the podcast and leave a review.
It helps others find our podcast so that they can learn from our guests too. And to everybody listening,
happy wedding planning!